When I think about shows that I will love and rewatch for potentially the rest of my life, there are a few that come to mind, and Ouran High School Host Club is one of them. Ouran has always been a personal favorite of mine. If I recall correctly, it was actually the first slice of life anime I ever watched. It was the series that really opened up my eyes to the world of anime. Up until that point, the only anime I had watched were of the fantasy battle shonen variety. I grew up on Dragon Ball Z Kai that aired on Nicktoons, along with Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is absolutely a shonen anime. Ouran is the show that introduced me to realistic fiction anime. It's the show that taught me that anime wasn't exclusively magic fights with big bursts of energy. There could be a show about a poor girl who accidentally breaks an expensive vase and has to work as a womanizing host in order to pay back her debt, eventually developing a found family relationship with the members that make up the club she's forced to join. There's always been something about Ouran. There's some mystical aspect to it that I just can't explain. Maybe it's just nostalgia from my own history with it. After all, it was one of the anime that made me fall in love with the medium. But I swear, I feel like there's a sense of magic surrounding each episode. From the very moment that the opening begins, it's like you're stumbling into a fairy tale full of elegance, wealth, beauty, and romance. It's for this reason that, in my opinion, there is no other slice of life anime like Ouran High School Host Club.
Hey, wait a minute. What is this?
Just what it looks like. It's coffee.
I've never seen this brand before. Is this the kind that's already ground?
What do you mean? It's instant coffee. I'll go back and get something else. Excuse me for not buying you guys expensive coffee.
No, I'll keep it. I'm going to give it a try. I will drink this coffee!
I've seen this show from start to finish at least 4 or 5 times, sometimes in sub, sometimes dub, the latter of which is pretty solid despite being over a decade old at this point. Now normally I wouldn't even bother discussing this and would just recommend that you watch the original language version, but I've enjoyed Ouran in both sub and dub, and I have to say it's one of very few series that I highly recommend the English dub for, almost more than I do the original. In my opinion, it's one of the best anime dubs in the history of anime dubs. The comedy is translated well, dialogue for the most part feels natural, and they even dubbed the opening. Why don't they do that anymore? Anyway, the dub is phenomenal, and I couldn't see myself making a video about this show without giving it the proper respect that it deserves for an anime dub from 2008. I've made it abundantly clear in my previous trash fires that the characters are always the most important aspect of any story for me. That being said, I don't feel as if I really need to say it at all, but yeah, the characters in Ouran High School Host Club are fantastic. The episodes often feature one-off side characters that are given touching stories that the host club play a part in concluding. One of these stories includes that of Kaneko Kasugazaki, a girl who begins host hopping in order to get the attention of her childhood crush. There's also Shido, an elementary student of Ouran Academy, who desperately wants to learn to play a piano duet with the girl he likes before she moves to Germany. My favorite, however, is that of Umehito Nekozawa and his sister Kirimi. Nekozawa-senpai is established as someone who enjoys worshipping the occult and practicing voodoo, all whilst draped in dark clothing, using only candlelight to see his way around. I would assume a good portion of the reasoning behind this is that he suffers from photophobia, which gives him an intense sensitivity to most forms of light. His 5-year-old sister, however, is terrified of his hobbies and is afraid of the dark. Bisco Hattori uses these characters to tell an adorably wholesome story about a princely older brother who would do anything to protect his little sister, whom he cherishes. I don't believe I can do this story justice, but I will admit that upon watching it again in preparation for this video, it made me cry. I never watch these episodes and think, why should I care about this random new character? Because the writing turns them into the focal point of the episode and does a great job of it. In these episodes, the host club turns into a type of support group, doing whatever they can to help out the situation of the episode's side character. These episodes can be hit or miss depending on what type of narrative catches your eye, but I enjoy them nonetheless. Moving on from the side characters, in my opinion, each member of the host club has a distinctive personality that makes for very fun character interactions. However, they also each have full lives that they're living. I love the Hitachin twins, and I'd like to demonstrate the level of complexity that's gone into writing them by describing to you the plot of one of the episodes of Ouran High School Host Club. Episode 5 is called The Twins Fight. The episode plays out like a standard Ouran plot. The Hitachin twins, Hikaru and Kaoru, get into an argument after Haruhi says that she's able to tell the difference between the two of them because Hikaru is more mischievous than Kaoru. The episode then revolves around the lengths they're willing to go to in order to differentiate themselves from the other. Both of them decide that they're sick of being identical. They even dye their hair in order to make their identities clear to those around them. When Kaoru attempts to curse Hikaru using a type of voodoo doll, Haruhi finally steps in and decides that the fight is over. She tells them that if they continue fighting, that she'll never let them come over to her house. It's at this point that it's revealed that the entire fight was fake. At the start of the episode, when Haruhi refused to invite them over, they figured they'd stage a fight in order to get what they wanted, and they ultimately succeeded. Next, we see the twins operating in the host club as usual, but with their hair still dyed. Haruhi then walks by in order to reveal that the two of them switched hair colors. Now, Hikaru, who originally dyed his hair pink, is the blue-haired twin, and Kaoru is now the pink-haired twin. Haruhi then gives a lighthearted chuckle, and the episode ends on a close-up of her smile. Except, that's not how the episode ends. You see, what I failed to mention is that the episode began with a short flashback scene. We see the twins when they were young children sitting on a bench holding hands. It seems that their classmates are playing in the snow, with the two of them only watching. They don't seem interested in joining any festivities, both with cold looks on their faces. A seemingly friendly girl then walks up to them and asks if they'd like to play with her. When the twins ask who in particular she wants to play with, she replies, "Both of you." They toy with her choice of words. They respond by saying, "There's nobody here named both of you." When she refers to both of them by name, they then ask if she can tell which one of them is Hikaru and which one of them is Kaoru. We don't get to see the girl respond, and the scene fades to the present, where the boys are playing a game with their guests. The game they're playing is called the "Which One of Us is Hikaru" game. The guests lament over how difficult it is to tell the difference between the two of them. However, Haruhi immediately guesses correctly, and when the twins try to say she's wrong, she stands up for her answer, saying that she knows that she's right, and that while they are identical in looks, they're different. In the final scene, the boys play the game again, this time with dyed hair, making it very easy for the guests to answer correctly. But Haruhi is able to tell that they switched their hair colors, and it causes them to freeze in place. The ambiance of the rowdy host club begins to drown out as the twins flash back to that day in the snow. Just like back then, they're now holding hands. As the boys watch Haruhi leave, we see Kaoru's eyes look over at his brother before closing them. As soon as his eye in frame closes as he blinks, a subtle guitar riff starts playing. The world around them fades into a white void, with Haruhi being the only person other than the two of them still there. The frame changes to a shot behind them. Still holding hands, they're posed in front of the bench from their flashback as the two boys watch Haruhi walk away. Kaoru then says, "Do you realize what's happened, Hikaru? Until now, there were only two groups of people. Us and everyone else. But for the first time, someone's crossed into our world."
Ah, chills. Literal chills.
This is the exact point in the show in which the characters stop being what I often refer to as cardboard cutouts. We're given a serious moment with no punchline, and the way that the moment is delivered hits you like a truck because it goes against the expectation that the first 4 episodes set up. every episode prior to this one has ended on a gag or a lighthearted quip. For the first time, the characters begin to start feeling three-dimensional. The twins are these insanely complex individuals who constantly contradict how people perceive them because they don't know what they truly want. They want to be told apart. They don't want to be told apart. Nobody outside of each other knows what they're thinking. Tamaki says it outright in episode 15, The Door the Twins Opened.
I don't understand what they're thinking. If they want people to tell them apart, why don't they wear different hairstyles or something?
Maybe they don't want to be told apart.
But that's the whole point of the game.
The truth of it is, they don't just want somebody to win the Which One of Us is Hikaru game. They want somebody who can genuinely tell the difference.
No one will ever be able to win the Which One is Hikaru game, and we've known that from the beginning!
They're tired of being the only ones who know who is who. This is proven by the fact that they lie about the results of the game constantly. They say that nobody has ever won the game, but that can't be true. Statistically speaking, with 50-50 odds, many people have guessed correctly, but the twins always tell them that they're wrong. Why? Because they're looking for someone who will stand up for their answer, confident that they know which twin is which. But every time, they're met with the same disappointment. Nobody can truly be confident that they're right. And every time someone fails to live up to the twins' expectations, they become detached from the world around them. This causes them to grow up incredibly jaded. We see this demonstrated by the way they treat the girls who send them love letters.
I am Kaoru. You must have gotten my desk confused with Hikaru's and put your letter in the wrong one. Do you think that you could like me instead?
I guess. If you're okay with it, then I am too, Kaoru.
I see. Then, hey, Kaoru! She says that she'd be fine with you instead. This is getting old. You girls just keep falling for it.
You jerk! Why are you so mean?
No, you're the one who's mean. You're okay with either of us? Really? Who do you think you are?
And next time you write a love letter, make it good.
Hikaru and Kaoru add so much to this series. If Tamaki hadn't broken through the metaphorical wall that they put up, who knows just how jaded and apathetic they might have become. It's for this reason that I say that their relationship to the host club, the way that it saved them, is part of the reason I have always loved this show. This is a silly, who's the girl gonna end up with at the end type of show. There won't be that much depth to it or its characters, but it'll be funny and entertaining. That's what you think until episode 5. The ending theme starts playing, and you're left with a chilling feeling of melancholy, simply thinking, huh. Similarly to the one I described in the previous section, episode 8 features a scene in which Haruhi hides in a wardrobe because she's scared. It's here we learn that because her father is always working, Haruhi's had to learn how to handle different kinds of situations all by herself, even when she was a young child. However, while that level of independence allows Haruhi to feel in control of her life in many ways, it creates an irrational fear of things she can't control, like for example, the weather, thunder, and lightning. Once again, the scene is played straight. Absent of a silly soundtrack, Tamaki realizes what's causing her fear and solemnly comforts her. And they end the episode on a gag about Tamaki being a kinky perv. But to close out my point here, there is so much more to this show than just laughs. Of course, at its heart, Ouran is a comedy, but it always makes room for a touching scene here and there. Unfortunately, if you're expecting the rest of the show to immediately be more serious and focused on character development like episode 5, you'll be a tad disappointed. The immediate following episodes seem to revert to the show's standard of just being fun. Personally, I almost find this approach to be even more intriguing because it makes you anxious and excited for the next set of breadcrumbs. It's an incredibly solid hook that really helps you get invested in wanting to know more about the show's central characters. It's moments like these that make Ouran stand out within its genre. Everything I just mentioned is stuff that Ouran has hiding behind the mask of a goofy shoujo gag series. But it's precisely this layer of depth that keeps you coming back. I consider Ouran to be a very well-produced show, and it's clear to me that a lot of love was poured into making it a timeless adaptation. That statement extends into the creation of the English dub that I adore so much. Furthermore, I believe Bisco Hattori has done a wonderful job utilizing established storytelling techniques to characterize the individuals within her story. Hattori's use of flashbacks as well as subtle character interactions create lovable personalities to get attached to. Something I think you will seldom find in other stories is the dynamic in which Hattori uses the titular host club as a problem-solving unit in order to shine a light on newly introduced characters. Not only does this help to build up the world of Ouran by showing us the type of people that inhabit this world, but it also highlights different aspects of each host club member. Speaking of the host club, this main character group, in my opinion, is by far the most appealing aspect of Ouran High School Host Club, the dynamics of which are explored in very natural ways. For example, I've always held a fondness for the episode where Haruhi and Kyoya spend alone time together for the first time at a commoner's mall. Going further into the main characters, my favorites, the Hitachin twins, are some of the most intricately written characters I've ever seen. I truly believe that the twins add a lot of depth to the dynamic of the host club, and I love to learn more about them and how they became the way they are. In terms of how the story is presented, I think the show thrives on its comedy, subversion of expectations, and Hattori's natural character writing ability. You go in expecting to laugh at all the silly gags, and you do, but are inevitably winded by all the feels. Even in episodes where the comedy takes center stage and there aren't any gut-punching feels moments, I find myself getting lost in the lively world of Ouran or falling in love with some new side character. One large aspect of the show that I haven't really gone over much in this video is the comedic writing. This was by design. Since comedy is so subjective, I'd find it difficult to convince someone that it's a funny show through my words alone. So here's what I'll say about it. Ouran's gags simply appeal to my sense of humor. It's goofy and lighthearted, and it offers a lot of relatability to characters that are much wealthier than any of us watching will probably ever be. Any sort of economic social barrier is shattered when you see that the characters are just dumb high schoolers like in any other anime. They just happen to also be from wealthy, renowned families. When I sat down to write this script, about halfway through, a single question began to form. Why do I keep coming back to rewatch this one show? And to answer that, I began to look into what about it I enjoyed so much. Of course, there are the wonderfully written characters that I love. There are also the hilarious gags that go along with them, but inevitably, I came to a single conclusion. That conclusion is one that I have already stated during the intro section. That conclusion is the basis for this entire video, and that conclusion is the reason you're even here. It's in the title, it's in the thumbnail. Why do I keep coming back to Ouran after all these years? The answer, in my opinion, is because there is no other anime like Ouran High School Host Club.